starting in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody. I appreciate you being here. Tonight, I am your Zoom facilitator. I will be watching out for any issues. If you want to go ahead and send me a private chat if you have any issues, if you can. If it's something that I notice, I may reach out to you. You're also welcome to shoot me a message either by text or by WhatsApp, and I'll keep an eye on that as well if you have any issues regarding this meeting. I would first like to once again say welcome to Dallas Social Distancing Toastmasters. This is our umpteenth or third meeting under the COVID pandemic. At this point, I would like to share with you my screen and take you to our website where I will show you where you can find our agenda for this evening. So if you go to www.dallassocialtoastmasters.com, at our homepage, you will see toward the right there's a member section. And if you look down just a little bit below the verbiage there where it says member section, there's a thing that says current agenda. And if you click on that, that will open up today's current agenda or tonight's current agenda. And hopefully it'll do that here for me in a moment. We'll see how fast that magic works. It's coming, it's coming. Patience, please, patience. So there you go. And tonight's, as you'll see what the agenda is there and what the theme is, but our Toastmasters of the evening will go over that stuff when we get to it. But if you want to go there, you can download it or leave it up on your own screen, whatever you need to do to keep it there for reference purposes. It's always a good idea as we go through the meeting so you can follow as we go through. And also, as meeting facilitator, I want to bring up a couple of other things. One is, if you're not speaking, please try to keep yourself on mute. If I see that you're not on mute and you need to be, you're not speaking, then I'll try to keep you on mute as well throughout the meeting. If you are going to speak, obviously take yourself off mute. When you're done speaking, put yourself back on mute. For the speakers, the prepared speakers, as well as our table topic speakers and our evaluators, and I think tonight we only have one evaluator, and then we have a round robin. But what you'll need to do is be sure that you have the timer pinned. And I think that our timer tonight is John Vessels. Is that correct? Not if that's correct, John. Okay, great. So find John Vessels. Make sure that he's on your screen. If you need to pin him, you can do that by moving the cursor or over his little window, right-clicking. I think then it'll give you that option. Or if you click on the 3 dots that are on the top right corner of his window, you can choose pin, and that'll keep him up so that you can see him during your presentation for whatever it was, whether it's prepared speech, table topics, or evaluation. And I think that that's all that I have to offer for this evening. So I'm going to pass the meeting over to our club president and coincidentally our Toastmaster of the evening. Please help me to welcome Mr. Mark Sims.
Thank you, Rob. And for starters, welcome everyone to Thursday night, Dallas Social Toastmasters. And I'd especially like to welcome our guest, Matthew Shipley. And Matthew, welcome. Hope you enjoy it. If you really want to, you might get an opportunity, not a requirement, but an opportunity to participate in one of our sections. Otherwise, just enjoy the meeting, and we'll probably be asking you some questions after the meeting just to kind of take your pulse and see what you thought about it. The theme of tonight is October surprises. Now, October has many benefits. We're a little further away from that hot August, and we're in fall, but not yet in the thick of the holiday season with a lot of preparations and occasional baggage. For baseball fans, October is World Series month, although this year it seems a lot different because the baseball season is so weird. And of course, October ends in Halloween. And just a type of advisory, if you attend a Dallas Social Toastmasters meeting that literally occurs on Halloween night, like last year's did, you might want to notice for mature audiences only. Don't be surprised at what you see. The theme tonight, October Surprises, that term actually has its roots going back to 1980, when the team of candidate Ronald Reagan were concerned that President Carter was going to cut a deal with Iran, bring home hostages early, just before the election, hence an October surprise. So it's vaguely comforting to know that controversial elections are not limited to 2020, that we've had quite a few of them in the past. But throughout the course of the meeting, we'll go over some detail from a website called The Spruce, spruce.com, gave me a little additional information about October that I will share with you. But for right now, we will introduce our duty holders. Our first duty holder to introduce is John Vessels. He is going to be both timer and vote counter. So John, would you please explain your duties?
Oh, good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I am doing double duty tonight, and I'm going to be your timer and your vote counter. So as the timer, there are different portions of the meetings, like the prepared speech, the table topics, and the evaluations, where we actually have to speak within time limits. And why we'll be doing that is timing each one of those sections. And when it comes up for the minimum time, you will see a green card. When you're halfway through, that actually kind of looks a little green again, but it's actually yellow. Let me deal with that. And then when you reach your maximum time, you'll see the red flag, and that means you have 30 seconds to wind up when it appears. So you'll want to have me pinned when you're doing your speech so you can see. Yeah, it's not really blue. Anyway, so you'll want to have me pinned when you do that so you can see the timing coming up and maintain your speech timing. The second part of it is that I will be the vote counter. So at the end of different sections, like at the end of the speaking section, the end of the table topics, will be asked you to vote for who you thought did the best job. We also will vote for the best of the big three. So when that comes through, you need to send a private chat to me telling me who you thought did the best job in that category. I will not vote, but I will be the vote breaker if there is a tie, but I will not announce that there was a tie. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, John. Our next duty holder is our posture monitor, and substituting for Marcia is Kim Crandall. Kim. Kim, you are muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, as posture monitor, I will be looking at your posture, body language to see anything that's notable as far as anything really great as far as gestures and your posture. But I also will be looking for anything that maybe is distracting or not enhancing your speech. It's important to recognize both the good and the items that need to work on as far as posture and body language. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Kim. Our next duty holder is our awe counter, who is Rob Giles.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. As your counter this evening, my duty is to pay attention and listen for any crutch words, things such as any pregnant pauses, or any other variations that might not be fitting in with what you're trying to say, something that's not intentional, something that's just a transition until you get to what you're trying to say. I'm not sure what I wanted to say. That might be an example. So keep an eye on that. If I hear something like that, I will click. And I don't know if you heard that or not. Hopefully you did. But I will click that during the entire meeting, except for during our prepared speeches. I will be silent during that time. I will write up notes throughout the meeting and give a report at the end of the meeting when called upon by the general evaluator. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rob. And Matthew, I want to interject right now that when you see us waving our hands like that, that is our substitute for applause. In the in-person meetings, which we've not had for about 6 months, after someone speaks, after someone discusses the role or gives a speech, we applaud as a way of giving encouragement. But that's a little more difficult now with a lot of us muted and applauding on Zoom. So when I do that, it means I'm clapping in appreciation. And our next duty holder to introduce is our grammarian, Mark Schroeder.
Thank you, Mark. All right, so my duty tonight as grammarian, I have a couple of things that I'm supposed to do. First of which is choosing a word of the day. Just in case, let me remove my background so that it won't interfere. But the word of the day for today is going to be fungible. F-U-N-G-I-B-L-E. It is an adjective. There's a really awful, ugly, long definition of what fungible is that reads something like being something such as money or a commodity of such a nature that one part or quantity can be replaced by, let's forget all about that one. Fungible means interchangeable. Nice, simple, interchangeable. Perfect example, a couple of which might be, if you're about to be on a jury, whether you're male or female is not going to matter because males versus females on a jury are supposed to be and assumed to be fungible. Or perhaps I need auto parts for my Honda. I don't have to have official Honda replacement parts, but I do have to have parts that are fungible. Good example. All right, so going back to, we'll just go to that one for the moment. My second part of the duty for tonight is to look for particularly good or particularly bad uses of the English language, make a note of all of those that I hear, and those will be part of a report that I will give at the end of the meeting. I am otherwise silent. I don't have a noise-making part, except for my own voice, again, as I do my report of what I have noticed at the end of the meeting. So watch your grammar, watch your P's and Q's, because I'm going to be listening. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. To give a little more detail on events that take place in October, again from the website thespruce.com, I'm going to break this up into 2 parts. And this first discussion are some days I never heard of before. I have heard of them now, I guess, that occur in October that don't have anything to do with food because most of them are food related. But on October 2nd, that is World Smile Day, which is always a good reminder to smile. It really helps personal interaction. Now, as a nice comparison, October 3rd is a commemoration of the movie Mean Girls, which I had no idea in the world why that movie would have its own day. I never even saw the movie. Obviously, the phrase has stayed around for quite a while. And as another nice contrast, October 5th is National Be Nice Day. So probably that's a lot better, is to be nice as opposed to celebrating Mean Girls. October 19th is National New Friends Day, and we all need new friends. October 25th is National Art Day, which I appreciate the arts. October 29th is National Cat Day. October 30th is Haunted Refrigerator Night, and not haunted as in ghosts, but haunted as and things that have been in your refrigerator too long. Every now and then, especially when we were working in our office, our boss would remind us to clean out anything we had in the refrigerator because he didn't want to see any science projects. That is what he termed for things that had been in the refrigerator for so long that they really didn't need to be there. And of course, it winds up on the 31st with the more traditional holiday Halloween. In a few minutes, I'll go over a few food-related days that are celebrated in October. But right now, we head into the speech part of our meeting. Our first speaker is Tanya Howard. She is going to be evaluated by Lee King. So Lee, would you please describe Tanya's speech objectives?
Actually, Tanya, I don't have your objectives.
Sorry about that. I did not forget that I was speaking, but I did forget that I should share that information.
Can you just shoot it over to me in email?
Okay. I'm doing the research a topic in the communicators. I think it's number 7. Is it number 7 or 8? Research a topic.
Oh, okay. All right, that works.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay, well, that tells me then. So Tanya will be working out of the Confident Communicator Manual, project number 7, which is research topic. Basically, her objectives are as follows: would be to research a topic and then present a 5 to 7 minute speech where she has prepared a speech on her topic in which she researched. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
And Tanya's speech is entitled Leadership Lessons. So please help me welcome Tanya Howard speaking on Leadership Lessons by Tanya Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. This year, I am starting my 27th year as an educator. And I know what you're thinking. She must have started when she was a baby. Yes, thank you. But over these past 27 years, I have held several different roles. I was a teacher, an assistant principal, a director, executive director, and my current title is Chief of Leadership Development and Special Programs, which is a mouthful, but it's fungible with other duties as assigned. And so as I've been reflecting over these past 27 years and thinking about my leadership and how I've led and what I've learned over these 27 years about being a leader. So John Maxwell has written the 5 levels of leadership, and he talks about the levels being position, or that you got that leadership position, your title, the permission level, which is about relationships and connecting with others, the people that you work with, the people that work for you, production or results. Also, the 4th level is people development, and how you grow those around you. And then the 5th level is pinnacle, that top level where you've really earned respect as a leader. And one of the things that I think I realized very early on is that I would say that maybe there should be a 6th level, in that even before you achieve the title or the role that you might be pursuing in leadership, you have an opportunity to lead. So you lead where you are. And so I have an opportunity in this current role to facilitate a leadership cohort, aspiring leaders. And we really talk to them about the importance of leading in your current role. And that if you are seeking advancement in your organization, you interview every day. And that people should see you as a leader in your current position. And so when an opportunity comes open, that you also are considered a leader. And so even, and I believe even when I worked as a teacher, I looked for opportunities to lead and to work in a collaborative way with the leaders on my campus, even though that I was still considered a teacher and I didn't supervise anyone. I still wanted to provide leadership for my team or in my classroom. When I think about my leadership as well, and Robin Sharma has written a book called The Leader with No Title, and I actually use that book a lot with our aspiring leaders. But thinking about in my 27 years, one of the things that I've had to learn about myself is that I kind of work on all of those different levels throughout my time, and that production is a way that I naturally lead because I am a results-oriented person. I'm kind of about the task, that I'm really focused on getting the job done. And I've had to really take a step back as a leader to make sure that I'm aware of those around me and how that might be perceived. So I'm that person that when I write an email, I have to stop and go back and say, good morning, how are you? Because I immediately get to the meat of why I'm emailing you. The same thing as a principal, when I would walk the halls, I would see a teacher or I immediately want to jump into the conversation about, don't forget we need to be on time at duty, before I would say good morning. So as a leader, I had to really go back and make sure that I did those relationship pieces, especially if that employee only saw me as the position because they didn't know me that well. They could be new to my campus. And so I had to really work at creating that relationship or that permission level for why they wanted to lead me. Why that they wanted me as a leader. So that's something that I really have to stop and think about. How do you make those connections with people? Because growing and producing is important, which is why I've advanced in my career, but you want to be able to grow other people with you and bring them along. So that's essential too. So the other part that I've learned is the importance of being hands-on and involved as a leader. And so that goes back to the people development that John Maxwell talks about in growing your people. I don't want to be the only brain in the room. I need everybody thinking and working and helping me to make those good decisions. And so even now, in the current role that I have, I still take time to help those people that I used to work with to try to accomplish their next goals. I think it's important that we pour back into those other people and that we really try to grow the people around us, because it's a way to help the organization to improve as well too. So I really wanted to be reflectful and think about, in the past 27 years, how my leadership has changed over time, the lessons that I've learned, and how in the next, hopefully 10 years before I retire, what I can continue to do to build and grow in my leadership, and how I can continue to share those lessons with others who are trying to build in their professional learning as well too. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Tanya. We appreciate that. I literally am amazed you've been in public education for 27 years. Not that you hung around that long, but honestly, I would not have guessed your age that high. So, hope that helps.
I was 12.
Yes, absolutely. You were a child prodigy. Our next speaker is Karen Lee. She will not have an individual evaluator, but in the evaluation part of the meeting, we'll have a round robin exercise where several of us can give a quick feedback to her on what she did well, maybe what she can work on. And great news, Karen is going to be our representative in the humorous speech contest on Saturday, so we're very proud of her. And so please help me welcome Karen Lee, speaking on COVID-19 humor. COVID-19 humor, Karen Lee.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, in late March, my neighbor across the hall told me about the government shutdown. She had been watching the news. My sister called me at the same time to tell me about the government shutdown. What is a government shutdown? Is the sky falling? I was anxious. I did not know what to expect. Since we don't have a vaccine for the coronavirus, we've been given 3 simple measures to follow to keep ourselves safe. The first measure is wearing a mask. The second is hand washing / alcohol sanitizer. And the third is social distancing. The first measure is wearing the mask. I can't breathe. I can't even talk. Whose idea was it for us to wear the mask in the first place? You say, I'm supposed to wear the mask to keep other people from catching my germs? I say, every woman for herself. When I walk in my neighborhood, I see masks hanging from rearview mirrors. Do you know what I don't see hanging from rearview mirrors that I miss? Fuzzy dice. I also get a big kick out of watching drivers alone in their cars wearing their masks. My 2-year-old niece did not like wearing the mask in the beginning. She tolerates the mask now, but she still does not like the mask. I don't think any of us like wearing the mask. The next measure is hand washing / alcohol sanitizer. When you have soap and water available, you can wash your hands in the best practice is to wash your hands for 20 seconds. You can think of the happy birthday song when you wash your hands. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you. When you don't have soap and water available, you can use the alcohol sanitizer. In Ranger Stadium, the cardboard cutouts represent the fans. We have one of the members in our Toastmaster Club whose face is on one of the cardboard cutouts. In the stands, the alcohol sanitizer is available. But how are the cardboard cutouts supposed to wash their hands? When I was little, I used to drink from a hose. I think I turned out all right. I ate dirt. Other small children also tested soil samples when they were little. The last measure is social distancing. We're encouraged to keep at least 6 feet distance between ourselves when we're in public places. How is a single person supposed to date? I saw an internet cartoon. In the cartoon, a couple were wearing their masks in a public place. They were in a restaurant, and their tables were separated by 6 feet. On another day, they were in a canoe, wearing protective clothing from head to foot. They were separated by 6 feet in the canoe. Fast forward to their wedding day, and the priest said, "You may elbow bump your bride." How many of you have been to the doctor during the pandemic? I went to the doctor recently, and I was sitting on the examination table, and the doctor came in full hazmat gear. He would not get within 6 feet of me. I said, "Doc, I'm over here. I'm over here." How's he supposed to examine me? In conclusion, we've been given 3 simple measures to follow to keep ourselves safe during the pandemic: wearing the mask, hand washing / alcohol sanitizer, and social distancing. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you for representing us. We look forward to Saturday. And I don't know what this says about me, but I'm one of those drivers who has the mask on in the car. And literally, it's because when I get to whatever store or whatever I'm going to, it saves me a second so that I'm not having to put it on then. I have a theory that if you go into a place of business and there's a person that gets there just in front of you, they're the person that's going to take all day and use up all your time. So to avoid that, I have the mask on already. So I definitely would not want to be psychoanalyzed about that. I'm afraid I want to find out. At this point, I'd like to ask for a timer's report to tell us if our contestants qualified.
Yes, both our contestants qualified on time. Tanya was 6:45 and Karen was 5:57.
Great. In that case, please send by private chat to John Vessels your vote for the best speaker, which you can vote for either Tanya Howard or Karen Lee. So please send those votes to John, and he will disclose those later on in the meeting. To wrap up the discussion on the theme on October surprises, there is an unusual amount of food days in October, again, according to thespruce.com. One of them is, and I won't bother with the dates, and I won't say every one of these because there's quite a few. One of them is World Vegetarian Day, which may be healthy, definitely not for me. The next one is a little more like it. It's Cinnamon Roll Day, definitely better than the vegetarian. Another is Garlic Lovers Day. I mean, social distancing by all means. Another is, this sounds okay, International Beer and Pizza Day. National Liqueur Day. Oh, National Chocolate Cupcake Day on October 18th. So we can definitely look forward to that. October 21st, International Day of the Nacho, which are always good. Later on, National Boston Cream Pie Day. And near the end of the month, American Beer Day and National Chocolate Day. So that is very unfortunate in a sense. If we enjoyed every one of those days according to the ate or drank whatever we were supposed to, we would head on into November and Thanksgiving already overweight. So you might want to use discretion on how seriously you celebrate those days. And so I'll wind up the discussion of the October surprises. Again, I'm glad that the summer is in the past, and this is a nice little break between the hot summer and what will eventually be a normal chilly winter. So let's enjoy October. And let's also enjoy our table topics part of the meeting. And leading us in that will be Dagan Newland. Dagan.
Okay, thank you. So I kind of went along with Mark's theme about, he has different topics per day. Well, I looked in what it is for the month, and it came up with several ideas. For example, like last month, one of the things was, National Suicide Awareness Month. So I found October had multiple things like that for the month, but I'm not going to bring them up right now. I'm going to talk about it when I ask my question. So, but for table topics, remember you must speak 1 to 2 minutes. You must reach 1 minute, and then again you have 30 seconds after that 2 minutes to wrap up. So basically you have 1 minute to 2 minutes and 30 seconds that you need to be in time with. And you also need to use the word of the day during table topics. So 1 to 2.5 minutes, and use the word of the day to qualify for the table topics ribbon, or virtual ribbon in this case. So my first question is going to actually go to our timer, which is John Vessels. So I'm going to bring up my timing background here real quick. And my question for John, but first before I get into the question, let me tell you what month I'm going to talk about. The topic. And that is American Cheese Month. So October is American Cheese Month. So my question based off that to you, John, is what are your favorite types of cheeses and why? You're on mute. You're on mute.
I'm on mute. I'm not anymore. So my favorite cheese is all of them. Well, within reason. I've never cared for Limburger. That thing just smells nasty in the wrapper. And if you can smell it through the wrapper, you don't want it. Or I don't want it. It may taste good and if you can get past the smell, but it's just weird. But no, constantly I eat American cheese, probably at least 1 slice daily on something, either on crackers or on a hamburger or on a sandwich or something. And I can eat just American cheese by the slice. I do love cheddar cheese. Cheddar cheese is really good melted on things. I don't like it so much just straight out of the package. If I have the like a block of it, I can cut off a block and just eat a piece of cheddar cheese, or as we call it in Texas, Longhorn. But I like that, and I can eat that all by itself. Another thing is I like Gruyere, I like Swiss, I like a good pepper jack now and then. All the cheeses are just good to me, like I said, barring Limburger. So any cheese, anytime, on any plate works for me. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Oh.
Thank you, John. All right, so my next one is going to go to Marcia, and it is Eat Better, Eat Together Month. So I know with the pandemic, everybody's sitting in your house more often and not eating as much. So have you been focusing on your eating habits, during this time, and if you are, have you started eating better, and kind of talk about that. Marcia?
She may have had an interruption with a dog.
Oh, there we go.
So sorry about that. Okay, so your question was, am I eating better?
Yeah, but you're eating better, and what, are your eating habits since it's COVID-19?
Clearly, I have acquired COVID-19 in poundage, okay? I have not changed my eating habits. I will admit I'm drinking more coffee, and I am, no, I'm just going to be honest. I haven't. I haven't. Being home more has caused me to cook more. I do enjoy cooking. So that has caused me to definitely just be really creative in my meals and have not thought about being healthy. Now, I will say this, that when I was home in California, and we all know California, Los Angeles, Hollywood, so you have this image to live up to. And so being that my eldest sister was a print model, and I promise you, she has been on every diet. And so while I was there, I was constantly, hearing about the keto diet. And then also her constant little meals that she was sending over for me to try. And I recall going grocery shopping for my parents, and it was like, oh, the keto this, and that's too many carbs, and how many fats are that? So you know what? I just went ahead and got what I wanted. I'm happy with my COVID-19. I told my husband he will not be cold this fall, this winter. Okay, so I'm good. Thank you. Sorry.
All right, thank you. And while you're off the meats there, what kind of dog do you have, Marcia?
I'm so sorry. I have 2 German Shepherds.
Wow. Well, that's all right. That's all about this, Zoom. Things happen, so no worries there. Which actually, I asked you that question because that actually brings up to my next topic is Adopt a Shelter Dog Month. So October is Adopt a Shelter Dog Month, and my question for this is going to go to Rob. So when it comes to pets, Rob, would you prefer to adopt a shelter pet or find like a pure breed from a seller? And whichever way you answer, let's talk about the benefits of why you answered that way.
Thank you very much, Mr. Topic Master. I myself love animals, especially dogs, cats. They are very high on my list of, I guess, I don't know, priorities in some way. Part of it is because I do a lot of pet sitting for both cats and dogs. Many of the people that I pet sit for have pets that, whether it's a dog or a cat, that they've gotten from rescue. And this is something that I think for myself, I would probably lean this way as far as getting a dog or a cat. Now, I do have some friends that paid some good money and have even traveled far to get a purebred. And in some cases, it actually has been a combination of being a rescue animal, and it's hard to imagine a purebred to be somebody that you might need to rescue, but there are those out there. For me, it doesn't matter. It may not be fungible as far as which animal I want or don't want. There's a benefit, I think, to having the actual rescue animal, is that you feel like you're really saving somebody. You're bringing somebody, and it fills up your heart. It makes you feel great, and you know that you're giving some animal something that somebody else may not want and may not be able to give. So it's a great way in that respect. As far as a purebred, I believe that there are some benefits. I know that my sister has a purebred, and it's a mix. And I guess maybe that's an oxymoron, I don't know. But it's one of the doodles. I call them snickerdoodles. But her doodle is, I guess, purebred between the two breeds. And it's much easier to train that dog as opposed to some of the mixes that they've had in the past. And that might not be the exact reason, but I think that it's a strong reason. So for myself, I think I would go for the rescue, but it doesn't really matter in the end. They're fungible for me. I like both of them. Back to you, Mr. Topic Master.
Thank you, Rob. My last question is going to be actually Halloween Safety Month. Of course, you know, October is the Halloween, so why not Halloween Safety Month? The question is going to go to Mark Sims. And my question is, what kind of safety tips for Halloween night would you give somebody who's going out trick-or-treating, of course, based this on a non-COVID year, you know, and have you ever heard of any kind of crazy safety tips, you know, in the past? Mark Sims.
When I was young enough to trick or treat, which goes back quite a few years ago, there was always the urban legend, and sometimes the urban legends are fungible. You may hear them in several different contexts, about people that would put razor blades in candy. So definitely, if you have a child that is going trick or treating and they get some unwrapped candy, throw it away. Now, these days, obviously, I don't trick or treat, and I really don't care that much about answering the door numerous times in the evening. I believe last year on Halloween night, there really were not, I don't think anyone knocked on my door. Suited me fine. So if you are an adult, and this isn't really a safety tip, it's more a convenience tip because you're probably not under the threat of physical harm from little trick-or-treaters, but you can keep your porch light off and turn the living room light off if you don't want a lot of additional guests. And if you, on the other hand, if you do, then obviously just do the opposite, get plenty of candy, have the lights on, and be a good host. Your decision. And otherwise, I'll probably try and spend a relatively quiet Halloween evening. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
All right, thank you, Mark. So my next thing is if everybody qualified on time. I know John qualified on time, but did everybody else qualify on time, John?
Yes, everyone qualified on time.
Okay. And Mark Schroeder, did everybody use the word of the day?
I believe there are two people I'm going to check with just to make sure I didn't miss it, but I did not hear John or Moshe use the word of the day. Did I miss it? Okay, in that case, we have Rob and Mark Sims as qualifying for word of the day.
Well, okay then. So I guess please take the time to vote and send your vote to John Vessels of who you thought had the best table topics, between Rob, who talked about Dr. Shelter Dog, and Mark Sims, who talked about Halloween Safety Month. In this case, I will now turn it over to our general evaluator, Nicholas Elwood.
Thank you, Dagan. Right now, we're in the evaluation portion of our meeting. First, we're going to hear each speech evaluator give evaluations of the prepared speeches. In this case, our first evaluator is going to be Lee King, but then the second will be round robin for Karen Lee's speech. So then after that, I'm going to give my general evaluation of the overall meeting. So each evaluator tonight will speak for 2 to 3 minutes. So our first evaluator, again, is Lee King, evaluating Tanya's speech tonight, Leadership Lessons. So please help me welcome Lee King.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and especially you, Tanya. Tanya, I really enjoyed your speech. I thought that you had a lot of really good information to share with us this evening, and it gives me pleasure to present to you a few things that you did well, make a couple of suggestions, and then one thing that I thought that you did particularly well. First of all, you gave us a really good speech that had a lot of meaning, and certainly we learned a lot about you. Your speech was very well structured, have very clear opening, middle, and the end. And finally, we could glean some knowledge from your speech that we could apply to our life. So all three of those things are really good things that you did during your speech. couple of things that I would suggest, one of which would be to perhaps focus a little bit more on the 5 elements of speech that you had quoted John Marks. You brought that up briefly in your speech, and then I didn't really feel like you really fully addressed those 5 points. And especially with your objective being that of research, I felt like if you had tied your speech into that, you would perhaps have met those objectives of research a little bit further. And I would go on to say, as my second point, would be to perhaps, because you added one additional one, so you had a total of 6 points, perhaps break this speech up into 2 parts. Share with us a brief overview of all the 6 points, and then really hone in on the first 3. Share a little bit about what you learned about John Marks, how you apply it to his life, and then give a little wrap up. And then come back a week later and present the final 3. That just gives your audience a little more focus on the research that you did, as well as being able to better retain the information. But the one thing that I thought you did really well was your ability to communicate with us here on camera tonight and share with us a lot of really good information. So in summary, very good structure, very good with your eye contact, interaction with other people. Just work on those, developing your main points and working on the Toastmaster, your objective of your manual. And then finally, once again, very good with giving us a topic that we can all deal with and ways in which we can learn. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Lee. So our second evaluator is going to be a round robin. So it's going to be a mix and match of us evaluating Karen's speech tonight, which was COVID-19 humor. So I'll defer that to our Toastmaster and how we want to structure this round robin analysis for Karen Lee's speech.
I think what we can do is go in the order of, or the way that I see the people on the screen.
Okay.
And, you know, well, I'll just start from the top left of my screen. And if you have something to add, great. Just maybe a positive, maybe something to work on quickly. And then if you just don't have anything additional to add, because we've had the opportunity to talk with Karen about the speech several times before, then we just go on to the next person. Rob Giles, what input do you have?
Thank you very much, both Mr. General Evaluator and Mr. Toastmaster. Karen, I do want to say that I thought you did great with the opening. It was very fluid. It was well done, well put together, well executed. I thought that you had all your gestures were great. Your timing of those gestures were very good. I thought you had good flow for almost the entire speech. There were a couple of pauses, one between your second point about the hand sanitizers and washing your hands and then moving into the social distancing. So there was a pause there that you may want to try to work on. There was also a pause right after you started initiating that third point. I did notice that you used the word bride. So kudos to you there. It seems like you've overcome that repetition of wife. So good job there. And then I very much liked toward the end when you were talking about the doctor visit and you said that, I'm over here, and then you shook your head like, what is this? This is crazy. So I thought that was a good addition to it. Overall, great job.
Thank you, Rob. John Vessels, do you have any input? Okay. And Dagan, what are your thoughts?
Well, I just like that, just from seeing her from the beginning till this time, like you said, it's much more fluid. And, she went from, Karen, you went from, barely making time the first time to, adding more time. So that's great. Had less pauses and things like that. So I just enjoyed seeing the progress that you made and just making it, better and better.
Thank you, Dagan. Mark Schroeder, what is your input?
All right, so let's see, you have obviously done this a couple of times before and gotten feedback. You've done a good job of integrating the feedback that you've already received, Karen. You definitely nailed the word bride this time instead of wife. I noticed that as well. Because you have integrated all of the other things, there are fewer things to comment on, and you have to go a little bit deeper and darker to find some of the things. So the couple of things that I did notice, particularly the very first few gestures, watch your timing on them so that they look a little bit more natural. One of the things that they used to get on Al Gore for was that Al Gore would make a point and his hands just didn't match his mouth. He would be up there and he would be making a point, and once he finished, then he instead of doing once he was there, he would make his point. What he would do is once he's there, he makes his point. And his hand would it would have a noticeable lag behind his emotion. And so it's the timing of those gestures and making sure that they fit well with the words at the same time, as if they really fit together as opposed to being too choreographed. So watch for that. The other thing that I noticed, and it has hit me every time, and I've not commented on it any time because I wasn't sure what to do with it, but now I'm going to make a comment, but you're going to have to get other people's feedback. When you say the alcohol / hand sanitizer, there's something about the word slash that bothers me. And I don't know what it is, but there's just something about, I don't know whether it's the word, whether it's the timing, whether it's the emphasis, but it sticks out for me as opposed to saying something like alcohol or hand sanitizer. Maybe just because it's an unusual word and most people wouldn't choose that word. I'm not sure. So just reconsider that word or get some other people's feedback as to whether or not they agree or disagree. I could be completely off in the weeds and the only one noticing that now. I think that's it. Sorry?
No, I was just going to say alcohol-based sanitizer.
Okay.
You could do that too. That would also get alcohol-based hand sanitizer. That would be great as well.
Thank you, Mark.
That's actually all I saw.
Okay. Well, Mark,
Actually, I would say for the hand sanitizer, well, since it's, you have to be careful with your time and everything, I would probably just say hand sanitizer.
It is true that the alcohol or alcohol-based doesn't necessarily add that much. That's true.
Well, she was at 5:57. She has a full minute that she could have made it go to.
So either way, I'm okay either way.
It's just whichever. Karen, it's your decide.
Yeah, Karen gets to decide that one, I think.
Mark, maybe you saw the movie Psycho and took it too seriously on the slashing thing.
Oh, the slashing? Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
Tanya Howard, do you have any additional input?
This is my second time seeing the speech, Karen, and I can tell that you're more confident. And I really liked the ending. That touch was really good. So good job.
Thank you. Lee, do you have any input?
No, I can't really think of anything right now.
Okay, thank you. Marcia.
No, getting better, Karen.
I agree. And Kim Crandall, do you have any thoughts on the speech? Kim, you're on mute.
I say she had great eye contact, and I think being virtual, that's especially important. But that was something that was a strength. So I just wanted to comment on that.
Thank you. And the only comment I have is, Karen, thank you for participating, because For an adult who's not a comedian, like none of us really are, not professional comedians, to give a humorous speech is putting yourself out there. So thank you for your competitive spirit. And what I'll do, Nicholas, is turn it over to you for your comments, and then you can resume the general evaluation.
Great. Thank you, Mark. And Karen, thank you so much on your, well, the one I've seen, so it's the second time around for me because I haven't seen your third time or your second time around. But I think you did a really good job of like everyone said, the pace was so much better. It was very well improved. The one thing I would say as to what Mark Schroeder said earlier is that there were some sort of lag effects, I think, with the hand gestures. And that's difficult. I think that's difficult for anybody I sometimes have trouble with that when I'm trying to get a point across. And sometimes it's like a weird, like bodily reaction to something you're trying to say. So I understand it. I do think it was very funny when we were talking about the happy birthday part. Let's see. The gestures were really good. Having those objects, having the actual physical objects, the sanitizer, the mask, I thought that was a very good addition to it. And you didn't use that your first time, so that was definitely a great improvement. So great job on your speech tonight, and we all look forward to you participating in the contest. So now we'll just go to my portion of my evaluation of the meeting as a whole. So we did start a couple minutes late tonight. It was around 6:48 or 6:49. We were all just trying to get our bearings together, but eventually we got the ball rolling very, very well. Great transition from Mark being the Toastmaster to the duty holders. I thought that was a very good part, and it just was smooth. It was just a great transition. I think it was a great job by Mark actually telling Matthew, our guest tonight, about common practices that us as Toastmasters and fellow members do. Very good description of the days in October. I thought that was very funny and really fit well with our theme tonight. I know for certain I'm so happy with this cooler weather and just it creates some sort of comfort, I think for everyone. But beside the point, it was a very good transition from the evaluators themselves just to the speakers. Tanya, when she used fungible, she used the word of the day, so that was great. I do like how she talked about teaching people who are ambitious and want to advance in their careers or in learning. I think that's just a good heart, and it's compassionate, and it just shows that you care about other people, and it's cool. Very good with the hand gestures as well, and I think talking about giving back was a very good point. So just a little bit more on that career advancement part. Then Karen, we obviously gave you my 2 cents. Mark Sims also, I didn't know that there were so many days with these different meetings. It blows my mind. And I think I probably should celebrate some of these, take some time out of my day and maybe celebrate some of these days. Rob, I have to say, every time I looked at his screen, he was so excited about all these days too. There's always some sort of funny gesture, and he was just like, he was having an absolute ball with Mark describing these different days. So I had a kick out of that. That was great. I'm sorry.
It's Bad Appreciation Week.
Yeah, there you go. So John just came up with a new day. So we're gonna have that. Well, it's the week actually. So we'll have a week dedicated to that. Dagan as table topics master, very, very good tonight. I thought it was quick to the point. Sometimes we like to drag on. Like I've noticed just with sometimes I do it too. But when table topics, we kind of like to drag things on a little bit. So I think it was just great. Very efficient, smooth transition from his questions to each speaker. Great questions, by the way. And then Marcia, I thought you did really, really, really well in your table topic speech, even with with your German Shepherd barking. So, applaud you for that. That was really good. And that's it for me. I think that's my 2 cents for the night, and we'll go back to our Toastmaster.
Duty holders.
Oh, duty
Nicholas,
holders. My
duty
apologies.
holders. Yeah.
Great.
And yeah, Nicholas, would you please introduce the duty holders?
Yes, I will. My apologies. So, John, so obviously did all the evaluators qualify on time?
Well, the only one I timed, of course, was Lee, and he did.
Okay. And then the round robin, obviously that's kind of an exclusion. But Marcia, as posture monitor, can you give us your report on?
Kim actually took that.
Oh, yes. Okay. Got it. So, posture monitor, can you give us your report tonight? Yeah, my apologies.
Oh, Kim, you're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Overall, great job, everyone. As I said before, because we're doing virtual online, eye contact is going to be even more important than ever to connect with the audience. And tonight, everyone, our speakers, table topics, everyone did a great job. So I want to commend everyone on that, because I did especially note that. I wanted to make sure that, because we are somewhat limited, being virtual, how important that is. And that's an important aspect, to be able to connect. I did not notice anything that was really derogatory, anything that would be detrimental to anybody's presentation. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Kim. So, Rob, as the odd counter tonight, give us your take. How did everyone do?
Thank you very much, Mr. General Evaluator. We had quite a few uhs and ums, so's, and such. I'm going to go through from start to finish. It's a little mixing up in that, because we have people that I came back to, but I have them listed as such. Starting with Mark Sims, our Toastmaster. Mark, you had a few uhs, a couple of ums. You also had a repeat while you were giving your feedback for Karen, where you said, and if you do, and if you do. So you repeated that phrase when you started one of your points in one of your sentences. John Vessels, you had a couple of uhs, a couple of so's, one Kim Crandall, you were clean up until your duty report. You had one and one during your duty report, which is rare. It could be perhaps the isolation, or just maybe you need to give a prepared speech or something along those lines. Marcia, during your table topics, your crutch word was you did have an but mostly uhs, over 5 of those. So keep an eye on those. You did also have one pause and one that was not necessarily important or appropriate to use. Mark Schroeder, no uhs or ums or ahs or anything like that, but you did have a repeat of his when you were giving your feedback to Karen. I myself had, I believe, a couple of uhs. I just vaguely recalled that as I was giving my feedback to Karen as well. Tanya, during your speech, you had a few and so's that weren't necessarily appropriate. You had a repeat of that at the beginning of one of your sentences. So's were a problem. And then also you had 5 ums, a couple of uhs. Karen, I didn't hear anything except for a couple of pauses that I already mentioned during your feedback. Dagan, as topic master, uhs were a big crutch for you, as well as using so as a transition. You had over 5 for both of those. Then you had a few ums and you knows. You knows, as you know, is one of your crutches. So keep an eye on those things. Nicholas, from what I heard, just one one. You had a transitional of and at the beginning of one of your statements. So keep an eye on those as well. So that's it. That's my report. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Great. Thank you very much, Rob. Now we're going to turn over to Mark Schroeder as our grammarian for tonight. So Mark, please give us your grammarian take. What'd you like?
All right, thank you so much. Let me start with word of the day. We already went over the approximately 50% of the people have managed to use the word of the day during their table topics. It's worth mentioning that during table topics, Rob actually used it twice, so he gets double credit or bonus points for that. Also, during her speech, Tanya actually managed to use it as well, so she worked fungible into her speech. With regard to things that I didn't like, it's a very, very short list. I think maybe only one or two, so let me do most of the ones that I liked first. For Tanya, I noticed the word pinnacle. Pinnacle is a very nice word. The word cohort, we don't hear cohort very often, although thanks to COVID-19, I think we're hearing the phrase cohort studies occasionally a little bit more right now. One of the ones that I noticed that I thought was on the negative side was I kind of work. And well, you either do work or you don't work. You don't kind of work. So kind of is one of those things that unless it's really intentional and for effect, should probably be expunged. I also really liked the phrase, the only brain in the room. You didn't want to be the only brain in the room. You also use the phrase, pour back into the other people. I like that one. And finally, toward the end, you use the word reflectful. At least I think that's what I heard. That's what I wrote down. John Vessels. I like the phrase block of cheese. We don't all have a good vocabulary of what we would call a hunk of cheese. I would have called it a hunk, not a block, not knowing any better, but block is, I'm sure, correct. And all of the cheese types, including Gruyere, as I tried to figure out very painfully how in the world to spell that word. I know the word, I sure just don't know how to spell it. Next, I will go to Nicholas. I like the phrase, I'll defer. When you did defer to the Toastmaster to give you an idea of how to go ahead and call on people, in what order. And I like the my 2 cents for the night. That was another good one. Lastly, Lee, let's see, what did I notice for you? So you said something that just, it comes across really nice and very polite, and it's a phrase that we don't often use, even in evaluation. It gives me pleasure to. I liked that. And finally, the phrase glean some knowledge, i.e. glean some knowledge from the speech that was given. Those were the things that I noticed in terms of grammar, good and bad, this evening.
Great. All right, thank you so much, Mark. And at this time, I'm going to actually turn it back over to Mark Sims as Toastmaster. Oh, is there one more?
Vote.
Big three vote.
We need to vote.
Oh, right. Okay. So please send your please send votes to, I believe it's Dagan on
John Vessels.
John Vessels. Having a heck of a night here. So please send your vote to John Vessels for the best speech evaluator for tonight.
That's the big three.
The big three.
Oh, best of the big three. Great. Best of the big three.
And just as a reminder, the big three is either myself, Mark Sims, the Toastmaster, the table topics master, Dagan Newland, or the general evaluator, Nicholas Elwood. And I do want to point out one thing that if Tanya Howard made a reference to someone who kind of worked, maybe she was monitoring me late in the afternoon. I'm still there, but it's kind of working as opposed to real work, you know.
Probably
No.
me too.
That's considered an intentional use of the word.
No, kind of just means it's no longer a challenge. Yeah, I'm kind of working at it. You know, it doesn't, no big deal.
Okay. Well, at this point, I want to get into the business part of the meeting. And definitely, we're very pleased to have Matthew visiting tonight. Matthew, if you could just unmute and tell us a little about yourself, what brings you here, and what can Toastmasters Club do for you?
Hi, thank you guys. Karen and Tanya, appreciate you guys, doing what you do. I know that, this is all new to me, but you guys look like pros up there. So it was good to see that for my first foray into this Toastmaster environment. But last week we had a presentation. I worked for Verizon, and we had several people that are Verizon employees at work or that are in the New Jersey office. And so one of them I think is the, do you call it the Toastmaster who starts the group? Yeah. So she was on and she presented, and then there was several other ladies that kind of gave their thoughts on the program and where it's taken them. And so it's something that, it's like I've been wanting to work on for, over 10 years. I don't have a problem speaking to groups when it's in a conversational environment like this. My problem comes into play when it's me being the spotlight in front of 100 people or 500 people, and I start to do ums just like there. And, I talk really fast and I don't breathe, and I haven't been able to get over that. And I've never had a tool set or a group that has been able to kind of guide me through that process. So when it came up last week that, a lot of people at Verizon are doing this, I was just like, oh, well, let me see what's in the area. And they gave me a list of different Toastmaster groups. The one for Verizon here in North Texas is in Irving, and I live in East Dallas. So it was like, I'm gonna find something that's closer, so that when COVID is done, I can actually, participate more regularly. So anyway, so that's kind of where, it's at. I know I spoke a little bit about, my problems and where, I'm looking to go. And, but, really it's just continue to work and practice speaking to, lots of diverse groups. I think what happens with me is I'm usually speaking to customers. And so I get comfortable in that space. And as soon as you change that audience, that's when I kind of start to, do the ums and, the different things that we all have a knack to do. So I'm just looking to practice, and I appreciate you guys letting me come in and be a guest.
Well, thank you for attending. And I will say one benefit to joining a club like ours as opposed to a corporate club is that you can experiment, you can give speeches. If you give a good one, great. If you have an off night, no one's going to care. It's not like your boss is going to be in the audience glaring at you. So it's a safe area where you can learn to improve in public communications. And believe me, I've definitely benefited from it. And some of the members in this club, not several, have 10 years plus with this specific club. So it's quite a good, loyal core base. So please do come back, and we definitely would love to have you as a member.
No, I appreciate it, guys.
Right. And Rob, you had wanted to be recognized, so please go for it.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. At this point, I would like to actually share my screen. I want to congratulate somebody and their achievement. This is going to be for Mr. Well, we'll get there in just a moment. Let me see if I can hear it. Does everybody see that Toastmasters home of the loud and the proud?
Yes.
It's actually the home of the loud and the proud and the distanced at this point. But tonight we have somebody achieving a level 2 in pathways, and their path is effective coaching, and the member is Dagan Newland. Dagan, from the legacy or traditional program, already achieved Advanced Communicator Bronze, but with this Pathways certificate that I'm about to show you, which was awarded on September 28th, so just a few days ago at this point, he has achieved effective coaching level 2. So please go ahead and let's give a warm round of applause, air hands, for Dagan Newland. Thank you very much, Dagan, for all that you do for our club, but especially for persevering through and taking on this path in Pathways. We look forward to more achievements from you down the road. Back to you, Mr. Contest, or Mr. President.
Thank you, Rob. And again, contest October 3rd. The doors open at 3:30, and for the people participating, such as Lee and Karen, and then Rob and myself are participating in performing duties. Be there at 3:30. Contest actually starts at 4, and assuming it's just a matter of going on the District 50 website and looking for the Area 33 contest to get the link. Okay.
Yeah, that is true. I'll email out a link as well, so that people have
Terrific.
that as well as a reference point, some jumping off points so that they can get in.
Thank you. And since this is the first of the month, I think I would know the sense of the group here, but if anyone wants to just chime in on what their opinion is on continuing these Zoom meetings in the next few weeks versus going back to Zonas, I'm sensing that since things aren't that much better, that most people would prefer the Zoom meetings, but we're open for your thoughts.
Stay on Zoom.
I would actually
Zoom.
motion that we just stay on Zoom for the remainder of the year. I don't think, well, after October, there's only a few meetings in November, and then we're out of Ozona anyway. So my proposal would just be that we tell Ozona that we'll consider coming back in January, depending on the cases.
I would vote for staying on Zoom.
I agree with Lee.
That makes sense because, yeah, once October's over, not much time in November. And, you know, I'd like to be optimistic, but we're not seeing a whole lot to go on. And then even when a vaccine comes out, I'd kind of like to see a few other people use it first before I get injected or whatever you do. So that makes perfect sense. Look forward to the day when we can all meet in person, but we want to do that in a healthy manner. And Dagan, would you please give us a quick rundown on the number of renewals that we have experienced, produced?
Well, out of the 12 initial invoices I sent out, we still have 2 people that have not paid yet, and I sent that to the chat earlier. So. And of course, we did Devon. You know, she paid her invoice, so I added her. So she's effectively a new member as of today. So that's good. So I guess we can vote her in, I guess.
Yeah, we do need to do that. We have not done that.
You think she ought to be here to experience that?
Well, I would say there's really no reason to. I would go ahead and vote her in, you know, do the vote. That way, if she performs a duty at the next meeting, she is already a member and gets credit. Otherwise, we'd have to vote her in at the beginning of the meeting for anything that she does to count.
Okay. Does anyone have a motion to offer?
A motion that we accept Devon and as a new member of our club.
Second.
Okay. In that case, everyone in agreement? Or is there any discussion before we vote? In that case, if you agree with accepting Deb as a new member, please raise your hand in the affirmative. If you have cause to disagree, then if you'd like to raise your hand in the negative. In that case, she's not here, but congratulations to Deb. And then definitely as soon as she can join us, we let her know how glad we are to have her, because it's great to have a new member.
And I'll communicate that she's been voted in.
Super. And before we hear on the winners on the various votes tonight, does anyone else have any remaining business to bring up? Terrific. Yeah, Rob.
Of course. Every Saturday I do an orientation offering, and it's Saturday at 10 a.m. roughly until 11 a.m. depending on who shows up. I will go ahead and I will shoot an email out after the meeting with the link and the password and that. But if you go back, if you've received those before, it's the same meeting number, same Zoom ID meeting number, it's the same Zoom password. But I will go ahead and I will shoot that email out again for those who don't know it or need a reminder. And I'm available for many different questions, and I'll take whatever direction that whoever shows up and wants to take, I'll take that direction and explain anything that needs to be explained or answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. And John, would you please announce who the winners are?
Yay. Okay. Our best speaker tonight goes to Tanya Mitchell. Hey.
Tanya Howard.
Virtual, oh yeah, Tanya Howard, I'm sorry. Oh, I know Tanya Mitchell. She's a friend of mine. Never mind. We are too. But she's a friend of mine from work. Anyway. So virtual ribbon. Okay. Table topics. The best table topic speaker tonight goes to Rob Giles. Yay!
Yay!
And last but not least, the best of the big three, Mark Sims. Hey! Congratulations, all of y'all.
Thank you.
And back to you, Mr. President.
Thank y'all so much. Look forward to seeing quite a few of you on the Zoom screen at 3:30 to 4 on Saturday afternoon. Otherwise, y'all have a great weekend.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Ending the recording in 3, 2, 1.